Hi there, everyone. My name's Stuart McAllister. I run a relocation and immigration company based in Central Europe, and this is TIRAtalks for the International Relocation Associates. And I'm delighted this afternoon to be speaking to Johanna Lennartson, got my pronunciation more or less correct there, from Nimmersion in Sweden. Hi, Johanna.
Hi, Stuart.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Yeah, haven't seen you since Vegas, and definitely looking forward to, as we were talking about recording, several possible conference opportunities during the course of the year, as it's raining outside in Budapest today. Much I would look down plans ahead.
Exactly. No, it's going to be a really exciting year, I hope. And many
Definitely
fun where we can meet.
Hope so. So let's get started. So first of all, I'd like to talk about your company, Nimmersion. Tell me the history. I understand the company was founded in 1995. I know you, I know Lena, but I must confess, other than what I've read on the website, I don't know too much. So tell me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's correct that it started in 1995. And that was Lena moving back home to Sweden at that time. So that was Lena Rekdal, our founder. And she wrote a book about it, you know, moving to Sweden, our culture, restaurants, fun things to do with children, and, you know, all sorts of good things for people moving to Sweden to know. And she sold that book to the large corporations moving expats to Sweden at that time. And they happily bought a book that was called The Newcomer's Practical Handbook. But they also wanted her to assist them with their relocation to Sweden. So that was really the birth of the company.
And back at that time, I mean, obviously, so Lena's arrived. She's written a book about her relocation experience, and she's returning home.
She has been living abroad for a long time.
That's interesting. So, I mean, it's really the reverse. Rather than writing about her exploits living abroad, she wrote about going home, which I know I've learned from cultural trainers that repatriation can be the hardest.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so she's selling this book to corporations. And at that time, do you think there was much competition?
No, it was not.
Right. So that's the point.
Actually, I thought she invented a business. I mean, the industry, like I think a lot of people did at that time in the 80s and 90s in different countries. You know, that they were the first one providing relocation services or immigration services.
Absolutely. I mean, my company's somewhat younger, but you're absolutely right. If you go back to the early 90s, then that's really that's really the birth of our organization in Europe, even in the major economies of Western Europe. So wow, okay, so Lena's a pioneer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that book is actually our customer support pages today. I mean, they've been updated, of course, since 1995, but still the same kind of information for our clients to access when they move.
That's brilliant. Well, I mean, yeah, because we're often as relocation providers expected to come up with some kind of original country guide, whereas with Nimmersion and Lena, it's the other way around. So first there was a book, which as you mentioned, obviously had to be updated over the last nearly 30 years. But then the business of actually physically assisting people with relocation was built on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, there's something I didn't know. Okay, and where do you fit into this picture? So when did you join the organization?
I started in 2007. So this year it will be 16 years.
Wow. And were you brought in straight away as a manager, or did you start as a consultant?
I started as a relocation consultant. And to be honest, in the beginning, I didn't really understand what we were doing. It took a while to get my head around everything. You know, so many different parts in everything from work permit to home finding to local registrations and different laws that you need to learn. But so since then, I've been both relocation consultant, senior immigration specialist, and quality manager, director of operations, and held all different titles within the company.
Wow. And now you are the CEO. Am I correct? So you've gone right the way through and this is one of the things that we as DSPs, as destination service providers, suffer from, that we have a very limited career path. So it's very, very rare, in my experience, for someone to go through the journey that you've gone through, right from the entry level as a consultant through to, and you've done both sides of the business, so destination services and immigration.
Yes.
Which is a credit to you. And then obviously, based on your broad knowledge, you could then supervise that work from an operations management point of view. And now you're top of the tree. And so you're CEO now. So where does Lena fit into the picture?
Oh, she's still very much involved.
Right.
So she's a great support still. You know, you've probably seen her LinkedIn posts. She's doing an amazing job with LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And she's taking care of all the finances, which I'm very grateful for, and supporting me. So she's daily involved in the company still.
Right. So she's like the CFO and the chairperson or something like that.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. Maybe we should give her a new title.
And I mean this in the most positive sense. I don't think Lena needs a title. She's just her.
Yeah. So true.
So yeah, so I was just trying to get an idea of the I was going to say family tree, which is not maybe not the wrong word, but the organizational chart for immersion. Right, and obviously you are proud members of Tira. So when did the company join Tira, and you know, how does your membership of Tira how does it benefit your business?
So we joined already in 1998. So I think that we are one of the companies that have been a member the longest. So that was Lena at that time, as I hadn't joined yet. And at that time, I know that the AGM rotated to a new location each year. So it was the member in that region that was the host during the AGM and show the others around and did area tours and great lunches, and they all got to know a new region in the world. And it
wait, I mean, this is something I didn't know. So the annual general meeting was held in person and the location rotated.
Yes, so that could be Australia or Germany or Brazil. And it was mandatory to attend as well. I mean, you could perhaps get out like every third year or so, but you would have a really good reason.
I didn't know that.
No, I know. And
we may have to bring this back.
I know. It would be great, right?
I mean, it's a little different now with 50 something members asking every member to host potentially 54 guests and put up, put them up, and it could be Australia, it could be Latin America.
Perhaps think of 50. Perhaps we should do twice a year instead of once a year.
I'll talk to the board.
Yeah.
You never know. We'll see what we can do. We said earlier we're looking for new opportunities to go and network in different parts of the world. So this could be another opportunity.
There is one.
Although I can see you and Lena fighting to see who gets to go.
We might both go.
That would be great.
Yeah. No, so my first Tira meeting was in, I think, Chicago, 2009. So at that time, they were held before after the ERC conference in the US. And now, since for the past couple of years, it's before Jura every year in April.
I do remember back in the day when, I suppose at the time I was probably a Jura board member, and I do remember seeing a group of people, many of whom I knew, getting together and having some kind of meeting. And I do remember, and they said, "Oh, that's the Tira meeting." And I was like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And I for a while I didn't know. and then it was actually just before the pandemic that my company was invited to join, and glad to say that we did. And yeah, so it's I've seen and known about Tira over many years, and it's interesting to see that the networking, the in-person networking of the organization was far more significant in the good old days. Okay, good to know. We will I'm gonna keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So okay, a slightly more searching question. What do you think sets Nimmersion apart? Now, obviously, you were pioneers, but you do have competitors now. What's the difference? What's the unique selling point of Nimmersion as an organization?
Well, I think that okay, so I have a master in service management. So I think excellent service, not at least, it's something that's really important to us. And that also, I think that reflects in our survey results. We do have a 98% success rate.
That's incredible.
So I think that's really something that differs us from other.
Yeah, I see results like that occasionally from time to time, and I do remember, going to RMC conferences, and numbers like that are shared from time to time. But it's still, we're good, but we're not, and we're 95 plus on average, and above 95, it gets so much harder to increase by each 1%. The difference between 95 and 98 is a long way. Believe me. Wow. Well, I'm very impressed.
No, we have a great team. Everyone is so willing to, walk that extra mile for our clients. So it's they are just great, all of them.
That's great to hear. And having a very, very strong team is so important. Did you have any challenges with staffing in terms of turnover because of the pandemic?
Yes, we hired a couple of people last year, and in the end, we found amazing people. But yeah, no, it took a while. It was harder than usual. So now I'm just glad to say that they are all on board, and everyone just makes my life easier every day. So.
Yeah, that is the best part. If it's perhaps a sign of a good CEO if your engine, in our world, the engine is just the people that are working for us are doing such a great job that we only have to get involved to say, oh, well done, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're self-managing. That's the goal, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think final question, let's talk about the future. How do you see 2023? There are negative words going around about recession and so on and so forth. How do you feel about the next 12 months?
Well, I think, I want to stay positive, so I think it's going to be great. And I think everyone you talked to during the conferences last year was so busy, so hopefully that would continue for everyone. And also, if it will be, less business than last year, for example, hopefully we'll have time for some education and some training and some IT development within the company. But as I said, we have a great team, so we feel very strong going into 2023, whatever will happen during that year. We will probably face some more law changes, especially within immigration, as we did last year. That's always really frustrating and takes a lot of time, but that's also why our clients need us, right? And also, if it would be the same, it would not be as much fun, right? Wouldn't stay for 16 years. So
it's nice to hear you use the word fun with regard to immigration compliance.
Yeah,
I do know what you mean. And if it were easy, we wouldn't be needed. If it's
exactly,
as it's complex bureaucracy, and it can be very complex. Certainly, in where I'm from, and it's I can imagine it can be complex for you as well in Sweden. That otherwise no one would need us.
No, exactly.
They would just do it themselves.
We should be happy that it's difficult from time to time and we struggle, but yeah, that's why we're around. And other than that, I think there is a lot going on in the north of Sweden, which is really exciting at the moment. It's car batteries and it's green steel factories, and we are providing relocation services in those areas, and that has been a challenge as well, but also fun.
Because of the geography, because of the remote locations.
Totally different providing services in the north of Sweden compared to Stockholm, for example. How do you search for houses in a non-existing housing market? For example, you have to be creative, and also for the people moving there, they need to prepare for other things than moving to Stockholm. Like, how do you drive on ice and snow, and how do you dress your children when it's -30?
Wow.
So we have learned a lot the last year, and that will continue. So that's also really exciting to be part of.
Those are challenges I hadn't thought of, but absolutely, these are. Whilst perhaps on paper, the relocation service provider isn't responsible for the kind of the health and safety and well-being of their relocation assignees in terms of the climate, it's very, very good that you do think about that. And indeed, I mean, driving in snow and ice, which they may have experience of and they may not, wow, these are very good points.
And these are such, things that are interesting to hear from other Tira members as well. What's specific in your location, and that's a great reason why we are in this network, right, for Tira, that we can share and learn from each other.
Absolutely. And on that subject, I mean, I know that we're going to have some more roundtable discussions coming up in the coming months, which is very exciting. And the sharing of best practice and best practices and our knowledge with each other, even if it's just learning about, well, what are the big challenges of relocating to a certain location, and particularly now that we too are, it used to be that 99% of our relocation was into the capital city, and now it's not. It started with the major secondary cities, but now it's going into greenfield operations where you're like, as you said, there is no housing market.
Yeah, I know.
So what do? We have to, we have to find it from somewhere, and then literally in some cases we've seen it like saying, well, it's going to have to be built. Yeah,
but that takes a while, at least in Sweden with all the bureaucrats.
No, and well, I can imagine that perhaps getting building permits and so on and so forth can be quite challenging.
Yep.
Right. Well, Johanna, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Very much looking forward to seeing you latest in Dublin in late April. And thank you very much for being part of this Tira Talk.